Hello, so in my last video I did an away day from the Lake District. I visited Oxford. I thought I would extend that trip a little bit more. Now I'm on the other side of the world. I'm in Singapore. Singapore is a very interesting country. I'm going to show you some peaceful scenes, some scenes that are conducive for our mental well-being. This is not a typical holiday vlog. There are plenty of those on the internet in which you can see the main touristy sites such as Changi Airport, Gardens by the Bay, Sentosa, or all these type of places. I'm more interested in the ordinary, everyday life that Singaporeans experience and how there are design elements in the environment to help beautify the city. This is an interesting aspect of Singapore. In some ways, Singapore is a bit paradoxical. On the one hand, it's a concrete jungle, densely populated, very noisy. The locals consider it to be very stressful. So not just in terms of their work, for example, they work very long hours, but just in terms of the environment itself, so noisy in that. But on the other hand, there are some lovely oases of greenery. Sometimes Singapore is referred to as the Garden City. One main tourist site is the Botanic Gardens, for example. But you don't have to travel all the way to the Botanic Gardens. Just on everyday housing development board estates, there's a lot of greenery. And it's this latter that I wish to show you. Today I visit Punggol. In particular, I go to the Waterway and to the HDB estate Treelodge. So it's a nice, refreshing waterway, very pleasant to walk around or go for a jog. Many people early in the morning or in the evening after the heat has dissipated somewhat often have a little stroll around here. Nice peaceful scene. Step 1. Some people are unreasonable. We are always going to meet unreasonable people. We shouldn't harbour really any expectation that we can change them. I mean, maybe if we maintain our composure, people will be impressed with our calmness and it will cause them to reflect, perhaps at a later time. But we shouldn't harbour that thought that we're going to be able to change people when people are unreasonable. All we can do is try to maintain our own calmness. Now, with that in mind, what we should consider is when we encounter an unreasonable person, this is a little opportunity for us to practice our virtues. And so we can secure a little victory that day. If we maintain a journal, for example, perhaps at the end of the day, we can record that we were successful in maintaining our composure. Step 2, judgments, not events. So for example, here I am sitting on a bench. Imagine a bee lands before me. Now I could panic and think, oh no, the bee's going to sting me. I'm going to die. Or I could think, oh look, it's a honeybee. I like honey on my pancakes. So the event is the same. Me sitting on a bench, bee landing. But how I interpret that event, the judgment I make, makes a big difference to my inner calmness. Consider, for example, also you're driving to work and somebody comes into your lane, cuts you up. Maybe your initial instinct is almost one of road rage. How dare they do that? Such an inconsiderate, unreasonable person. You don't always know the full picture. You don't know why someone has done that. I mean, yes, they could be just a jerk, right? But on the other hand, maybe they were doing you a favour. Maybe there's a big pothole late in the road that you clearly haven't seen yet. and they were forewarning you, albeit perhaps quite dramatically, and they've actually prevented an accident. We don't always know. So we have to be careful in interpreting events. Remember, it's not the events per se, it's our judgments of them that count. So the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "It is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments concerning them." Epictetus also said, "Another person will not hurt you without your cooperation. You are hurt the moment you believe yourself to be." Step 3, de-escalate. Just because somebody's unreasonable, let's say someone's bordering on being angry, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are wrong in what they say. Actually, they could be right. It could be you who is mistaken. Of course, we can't condone their manner. For me, politeness and tactfulness count for a lot. Anger, in a sense, is like a form of madness. They've lost control. So it's quite difficult to think through with them the issue. If you say to them, I understand, actually they may find that even more irritating. We have to be careful with our words. Perhaps we could say, well, could you explain a bit more so that I understand better? I think the important thing is to listen to people. People like to be listened to. And let the person vent. Let the unreasonable person vent. Even if they make a mistake, even if they make a factual error in their ranting, don't immediately correct them. Just let them get it out. When they see that you are listening attentively to them, not interrupting them, after a while, they will get tired. They will start to calm down, hopefully. Now, if somebody is quite angry, quite very unreasonable in dealing with you, just think it's their blood pressure. You don't want to worry about your blood pressure. If they want to raise their blood pressure, if they want to increase their risk of, I don't know, a stroke, that's down to them. Don't allow them to affect your physical and mental health. Step 4, enlist the support of others. If you're working in the front line of customer service, see if you can gain the support of a colleague to be beside you whilst dealing with a difficult customer. At the very least, the unreasonable customer will be outnumbered, and psychologically that will count in your favour. If you have an unreasonable boss, it is also good to have a colleague at hand. The boss is more likely to be restrained in what he or she says if there is a witness. In addition, if you are alone with a boss and the boss gives you instructions which you carry out, but the result is not what is expected, your defense that you were merely carrying out what the boss asked you to do is strengthened if you have a witness. Some bosses won't own up to mistakes. Also, often the relationship between an employer and an employee is governed by a whole variety of different legislation designed to protect the employee from discrimination, etc. So a witness is very useful. I've enjoyed my walk along the waterway. Now I make my way to the Treelodge housing estate. I quite like these little statues and the cloud trees. These belong to a Buddhist temple which is beside the Treelodge development. It's so peaceful. Step 5. Set boundaries. As much as the unreasonable person expects you not to belittle them, equally, you are not there to be belittled by them. If you or the company are in the wrong, then by all means say that you are sorry for what has happened and express a desire to see how the situation can be fixed. But you are not there to be abused. Say firmly that you have a right not to be talked down to in such a manner. You can try your best to help them, but not whilst they're speaking to you in such a manner. So if, for example, you are working in customer services and the situation is becoming intolerable, then simply say to the customer, you refer them to the manager. Ask the manager to step in. It's no loss of face for you to need to refer to the manager. Step 6, be kind to yourself. Of course, upsetting episodes will stick in your mind. Remember to de-stress afterwards. For example, go for a walk along a waterway, go for a walk in the countryside, play a game of chess with a friend. Meditation is helpful. In your meditative practice, acknowledge these thoughts and feelings of being upset, but keep to the idea that there's a certain distance between the real you and those thoughts and feelings. If you do maintain a daily journal, write it down that you secured a little victory today in that you had an opportunity to maintain your composure in the face of challenge. Most housing estates in Singapore have a fitness corner for the residents. Isn't that splendid? I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.